After Ryota missed his last train due to working late at night, he decided to take a nap. But his peaceful sleep was suddenly interrupted by a loud noise, which he initially mistook for a video game. Reluctant to wake up from his sleep, Ryota found himself face to face with a little girl named Emily, who looked at him with a puzzled expression, questioning his humanity. Ryota, however, was more interested in getting back to sleep than understanding the situation. But Emily couldn't help but wonder about his identity. She had just defeated a slime in the game they were in, and to her surprise, the slime had dropped Ryota as a reward. It was the first time she had received such a strange reward. In their world, where everything was obtained by killing monsters, she assumed that a human being wouldn't be dropped for her. It was more likely to be a large piece of meat. To satisfy her curiosity, she contemplated cutting Ryota to find out what he really was. It was at this moment that Ryota realized pretending to be asleep would only lead to him being treated like a piece of meat. He opened his eyes and asked Emily what she was doing. Startled, she stepped back and interrogated him about his existence. The environment felt like a video game to Ryota, but he couldn't recall playing a game before falling asleep. Confused, he sought answers from the girl, questioning how he ended up there. She explained that Ryota had been dropped by the slime. Confused, he asked her to elaborate. Assuming he was joking, she initially dismissed his lack of understanding. However, as she realized he genuinely didn't comprehend the game's mechanics, she patiently explained that they were in Telyalu level 1. In this game, they received rewards by defeating slimes. In level 1, slimes dropped bean sprouts, which she had expected. But instead, the slime had dropped Ryota, leaving her puzzled. Intrigued, Ryota asked if slimes only dropped bean sprouts. Emily clarified that everything in their world was dropped by monsters, and killing slimes was her sole means of acquiring items. However, she was uncertain whether slime could drop a human, as she had never encountered a situation like this before. Since Ryota was still struggling to grasp the concept, she demonstrated by summoning a slime before them. Initially, she prepared to attack the slime, but it retaliated and inflicted damage on her, reducing her HP. Concerned for her well-being, Ryota wanted to help, but she assured him that she would be fine. Eventually, she successfully defeated the slime with her trusty hammer, causing it to vanish. However, only a few bean sprouts dropped. Ryota began to understand how the game worked and asked if they were still in Japan. Puzzled, the girl asked about Japan, revealing her lack of awareness about his world. They kept going, but Ryota grew bored of the repetitive hallway they walked through. Curious about progressing to another stage, Ryota suggested they move forward. The girl explained that she was stuck in Tallulah level 1 due to her low level and insufficient stats, preventing her from advancing. Wondering how she determined her drop level and stats, Ryota followed her to a nearby board. Placing her hand on the board, it displayed her attributes. Her strength was at level C, HP at level D, while the rest were at level E. Recognizing the board from video games, Ryota noticed another page and inquired about it. The girl showed him the second page, which detailed her drop stats. These stats determined the power of her drops, but unfortunately, all her stats were at level E. As a result, she couldn't acquire valuable items and struggled to make a living. Ryota asked if he could also check his stats. Intrigued, she instructed him to place his hand in a circular spot on the board, and to his surprise, his stats were displayed. Unfortunately, all his stats were at Class F, lacking both strength and HP. Switching to the second page, he discovered that all his stats were at Class S. Confused by the ranking system, Ryota questioned whether S was the lowest level. The girl insisted that S was the lowest level she had ever seen. Discouraged by this information, Ryota wondered if he could at least defeat a slime and witness its drop. Observing his search for a weapon, the girl offered him her own, but it proved too heavy for him to handle. She then handed him a bamboo stick. With the bamboo stick in hand, Ryota eagerly awaited a slime's appearance. When one finally showed up, they engaged in a battle. Initially struggling, he managed to stab the slime, causing it to disappear. To their surprise, the slime dropped a mass of bean sprouts as a reward. Ryota excitedly concluded that level S was indeed the highest level. Intrigued, he asked the girl if she had ever witnessed someone with a level S drop, but she had not. Ryota's growling stomach reminded him that he was hungry. Emily heard his stomach growl and suggested they eat. Setting up a fire, she cooked the bean sprouts they had obtained, serving him a delicious meal. Ryota commented that bean sprouts with chili would pair well with beer. She questioned whether chili and beer would be a good combination, prompting him to question if she had ever drunk beer before. She explained that one's standard of living in their world depended on the number of drops they obtained. Since her drops were low, she couldn't afford beer herself. Instead, she served him a warm liquid, which brought tears of joy to Ryota's eyes. He explained that it had been a while since he had shared something warm with another person. On Earth, he worked excessively and often arrived home late, resorting to snacks for dinner. Overworking himself had even led to illness, and that fateful day, he had missed the last train due to his late-night work schedule. Moved by his story, the Emily embraced him, assuring him that his hard work would eventually yield rewards. She encouraged him to be patient, emphasizing that bigger rewards awaited those who waited longer. Ryota contemplated where they would sleep for the night, and the girl mentioned lodges in town. She admitted she couldn't afford an apartment and had been sleeping in the same place. However, she hoped to change that in the future. Ryota prepared to leave, but the girl insisted he take the bamboo stick, as survival in their world without a weapon was near impossible. Grateful, he promised to repay her kindness and requested her name. She introduced herself as Emily Brown and informed him that she could always be found at that level if he ever wanted to meet her again. Ryota revealed his name as Sato Ryota, but she struggled to pronounce it and affectionately called him Yota instead. Venturing into the city, Ryota attempted to comprehend the workings of this new world. He discovered that the bean sprouts he had acquired were worth 200 pilots, but renting a room cost 2,000 pilots per night. Even minor expenses were expensive. After gathering the information, he returned to Tallulah, realizing his S-class drops allowed him to collect more items and earn more money. After 3 days of work, he managed to rent an apartment. Excitedly, he invited Emily over to see the place and revealed the price he had paid. She couldn't believe he had earned such an amount in just 3 days. He then handed Emily a key to the apartment, telling her it was hers to keep. Overwhelmed by his generosity, Emily tried to reject the offer, but Ryota insisted. As he prepared to leave, he explained he was paying her back for making him stew. Ryota was surprised when Emily offered to make stew for him forever. Touched by her gesture, he accepted the invitation. Before heading out, he sold his remaining drops and met a lady at the shop who informed him that Tallulah Level 2 dropped carrots. Additionally, a new dungeon was under investigation by the Neptune group due to it mysteriously not having drops. She invited Ryota for a beer, but he declined and returned home. When he arrived home, he was shocked to see Emily had renovated the home and prepared dinner. She explained that the dungeon the Neptune group had discovered lacked drops. Excited by the news, Ryota decided to investigate the dungeon himself. There, he encountered a skeleton that proved challenging to defeat. Fortunately, a falling wall crushed the skeleton. He then began to stab it with the bamboo stick until it died. Surprisingly, the skeleton dropped a seed. As Ryota held the seed, he heard a voice informing him that his HP had increased by 1. His HP continued to increase as he acquired more seeds. Eager to share his progress, Ryota returned and showed Emily his improved stats. She confirmed his growing HP and joined him on future trips to the dungeon. However, when she attempted to touch the seed, her hand slipped through it. After careful consideration, Ryota realized that the dungeon was reserved for those with S-class levels, enabling them to interact with the seeds. Ryota decided to move to Tallulah level 2. In level 2, Ryota faced a sleepy slime that struck him without causing any pain to him, due to his high HP. He managed to defeat the slime, which dropped a large carrot. After defeating the slime, he encountered other level 2 workers who mocked him for his low level. To his surprise, he also noticed a lady with rabbit ears behind him, who hit his head and expressed her hate for low-level players before leaving. Returning home that night, Ryota proudly presented Emily with the carrots he had acquired. He revealed that he had sold them for 8,000 pilots that day, leaving her delighted by his earnings. As Emily went to cook the remaining carrots, they heard a knock at the door. Curious, Ryota went to answer it. To his surprise, it was women from the dungeon with rabbit ears standing there. Once again, she hit his head and confessed her love for him. Ryota was shocked by this unexpected confession. With that, our episode comes to an end. Thanks for your time. If you stayed until the end, please like and subscribe for part 2. The great hero engages in a final showdown with the Demon Lord, prompted by the Dark Monarch's dire warning of impending world destruction. As the Demon King summons a massive meteor, the hero quietly prepares by picking up a tiny rock from the floor. With a surge of power infused into his humble stone, the hero strikes his sword, colliding with the meteor and obliterating it. Frustrated with the cheap tactics, the hero seeks to settle things once and for all. Both sides unleash their full power, resulting in a high-level clash that causes the environment to be destroyed. After a prolonged battle that leaves both combatants drained, they stumble toward each other and deliver their final attacks. As life fades from the hero, he smiles, knowing that the world is safe thanks to his sacrifice. Time passes, and the students of prestigious Rosewood Academy warmly greet one another.